On the windswept hilltop of Sausalito, where multi-million-dollar villas silently overlook the San Francisco Bay, stood a very particular house, entirely designed with Japanese tempered glass, UV-resistant, bulletproof, and time-defying. From the outside, the mansion looked like a transparent cube, flawless, without a single scratch. But precisely because of its brutal transparency, no soul truly seemed to exist within. The mansion's owner was Richard Whitmore, founder of Envisys, a medical tech empire leading in artificial neural interfaces and smart homes for people with disabilities. After the death of his wife, Elena Whitmore, a renowned neurologist, Richard poured the rest of his life into controlling everything through machines: meal schedules, temperature, CO2 concentration in the air, and the frequency of his son's heartbeat during sleep. He believed in numbers and algorithms because those things don't betray. Noah Whitmore, 11 years old, his only son, was born without arms, a congenital disability from the 6th week of pregnancy due to neurological complications. The boy lived in a perfectly programmed room on the 3rd floor. Motion, sensor lights, eye-controlled bathtub, AI, navigated wheelchair, voice-calibrated calorie, measured food. No one touched him. No one placed a hand on his shoulder. All care came from the Whitmore Care System, a flagship product developed by Richard's company. Noah became a live test user, a symbol of his father's technological devotion, and also the reason Richard let no one get close to his son. Then one day, Richard quietly submitted a request through the HR system of a small nonprofit in Oakland, looking for a female, no degree required, must have experience with disabled children, no insurance needed, willing to live on site, African background ideal, no public job posting, no press release, no line of applicants. Only one application arrived, by mail, handwritten, without a resume. Maya Ndione, 29, of Senegalese descent, formerly worked at East Oakland Volunteer Center for Disabled Children, 2018-2021. Quiet, no criminal record, no social media accounts, no salary request. Richard read only one line from the letter. I am not coming to fix the child. I am coming to be present with him. The day Maya stepped into the mansion was a cloudless morning in June. She wore an olive green turban, carried no suitcase, only an old cotton tote slung over her shoulder. The glass door opened by retina scan, but Maya didn't react. She nodded at the driver and walked into the house as if she had always lived there. Noah didn't come to greet her. He watched through the camera system and saw a black woman, no staff badge, no uniform, walking down the long glass hallway without bowing her head. He had seen many people come, doctors, social workers, journalists. All of them spoke to his father. None looked him in the eye. But this one wasn't like them. In the kitchen, Maya opened the fridge, found nothing fresh. She didn't use the frozen packaged foods customary in the mansion. Instead, the next morning, when Noah woke up, he smelled banana bread filling the 3rd floor. That scent was not part of the fragrance data programmed by Whitmore Care. Noah quietly rolled his wheelchair out of the room. The security system recognized him and opened the door silently. He rolled along the hallway and stopped at the spiral staircase. Maya was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, scrubbing the wooden floor with no robot vacuum, no gloves. She looked up at Noah and smiled. No words, no gestures, simply present. He didn't respond. But one slow beat in his heart changed. Subtly, yet unmistakably. That evening, Richard reviewed the camera footage. No unusual activity, no system errors. But he paused at one frame. Noah in his wheelchair looking down at Maya scrubbing the floor. The boy's eyes weren't hollow as they usually were. There was something human. Richard rewound, paused, zoomed in. A moment of warmth. In a house made of nothing but cold light. And for the first time in 6 years, he sensed that one of his systems had just encountered a variable never coded into its source. A human being who could not be programmed. On Monday morning, the mansion still ran on its pre-programmed cycle. Curtains opened according to outdoor brightness. Speakers played birdsong recorded from national parks. And the dusting robot glided silently along the hallway. But when Noah wheeled out of his room, he immediately sensed something was off. Not wrong in the sense of a system error, but a kind of emotional deviation. Something felt softer, out of sequence. Not perfect, but strangely pleasant. He followed the scent of cinnamon porridge wafting from the kitchen, something that had never appeared on the Whitmore Care menu. And he saw Maya standing by the stove, back straight, left hand holding the pot lid, right hand stirring with a wooden spoon. Sunlight passed through the turban draped over her shoulders, casting golden ivory streaks. She didn't look up, didn't speak, just kept stirring. Her tanned, calloused hands, those of someone who had done physical labor, moved with a gentleness as if she were playing music, not cooking. Noah watched from a distance, tapping lightly on the wheelchair armrest to stop. He had been trained to read expressions through facial analysis cameras, but Maya didn't exist in any database. No fear, no pity, no fake cheerfulness, just presence. At precisely 8 a.m., Maya carried a bowl of porridge upstairs, not on a robotic tray. She stepped up each stair, bowl in hand, without spilling a drop. She placed the bowl before Noah, then set a bamboo spoon beside it. "This porridge isn't for you to pity yourself. It's for you to grow," she said in a husky voice, English laced with soft, deep Senegalese tones. Noah didn't react. He tilted his head. Using his shoulder and chin, he maneuvered the auxiliary control to scoop up a spoonful. He had done this 100 times with emotionless food from digital containers. But this time, the scent of cinnamon made him close his eyes a second longer than usual. And when he opened them, he found Maya still standing there, not retreating, not looking away. He typed on the touchscreen using his gaze. "Are you a doctor?" Maya shook her head. "Number. But you're not a patient either." Noah blinked. The line vanished. He typed again, using the eyelid tracker. "Everyone calls me a project." She looked deep into him, unblinking. Projects don't know how to draw. He didn't understand. Maya opened her fabric tote and pulled out a small notebook filled with pencil, ink, and charcoal drawings. Portraits of children with incomplete hands, prosthetic arms, and blurred faces. But none of them were distorted by pity. They laughed. They raised their stubby arms to the sky. They held hands. The boy looked at the drawings, silent, but his heart beat faster. On one page, he saw a sketch of himself. It was Noah, but not split in half by medical glass. Armless, but standing in a forest. No devices, but full of wind. Maya pointed at that drawing. "You are human, not code." Noah bit his lip. His shoulders trembled, not from cold. That night, he didn't use the voice-controlled system. He directed his wheelchair to slide down to the first floor, for the first time, and quietly sat by the doorway, watching Maya water the plants in the small yard. She didn't notice him, nor did she act surprised. She continued watering, slowly, as if she knew the child would come, and as if he had belonged there long before he was even born. A week had passed since Maya entered the glass mansion on the hill. She cooked by hand every morning, washed with warm water instead of the sensor-activated dishwasher, and cleaned Noah's bedroom with bamboo cloths instead of disposables. She replaced chemical-scented candles with dried lavender, and gradually, the house began to carry the scent of life. Noah didn't show any reaction, but his habits changed. He no longer used the electronic panel to control the curtains. He pressed the physical button on the side of the chair with his shoulder. He no longer ate through the robot straw. He used a chin-operated spoon-lifting device, somewhat clumsily, but persistently. And every evening, he began to draw. The first sketches were hesitant. Trees without leaves, people without faces. But after just 3 days, his lines became clearer, scenes had depth. And on an A3 sheet Maya found in a drawer on the second floor, Noah had drawn himself, sitting with Maya beneath a red oak tree, surrounded by wind and sunlight. Maya said nothing when she saw the drawing, but the next morning, she set the table for two, for the first time, at the long wooden table overlooking the San Francisco Bay, a place covered in dust, since Richard hadn't sat there with anyone since the day his wife died. She laid out poached eggs, multigrain bread, halved avocados, and 2 cups of hot tea. She didn't ask if Noah liked it, didn't wait for permission. She sat down and nodded at him. Noah rolled his chair over. No robot assistant. No blood pressure monitoring system. He came alone, like a regular person, and ate. No one spoke. but their eyes met. A quiet acknowledgement. We are here, not as caregiver and patient, but as two human beings. When Richard returned from the basement lab, he saw the scene through the tempered glass. The dining table, the black woman sitting across from his son, and Noah was smiling. A smile. Not the facial nerve, force stimulation algorithm kind that Whitmore Care had tested before, but a genuine smile, awkward and surprised, as if even Noah didn't know where it came from. Richard stepped in, breathing heavily, his wrist pressing hard on the wrist control device. The glass door slid shut behind him with a soft beep, like a gunshot in the silence. Noah turned. He recognized that face instantly. It wasn't the face of a father. It was the expression of a founder encountering a product malfunction. Maya, Richard said, not sitting down. I recall clearly stating the breakfast care procedure. Maya didn't reply immediately. She poured more tea for Noah, then turned and looked straight at Richard. Your son ate using the strength of his chin and neck muscles. No intervention needed. Not needed, but possibly damaging. Richard's voice was sharp as a blade. We don't accept risks here. This is a closed operational model. You are not authorized to make changes. Maya stood. She didn't defend. She didn't back away. She said, I didn't change your system. I helped it remember there's still a human inside. Richard inhaled deeply. You are an employee. You were hired to clean, not to teach my son life philosophies. Noah sat silently. But his hand, the prosthetic, controlled by neck motion, slowly reached for the digital pen on the table. He wrote on the small board beside him, She's not teaching me. She sees me. Richard read the line, and for the first time he had no response. No anger, no criticism, just silence. Maya folded the napkin and wiped her hands on the hem of her shirt. I'll leave if you want. But don't call this child a project. He doesn't need fixing. He only needs to be allowed a person. Then she bowed her head lightly, not like a submissive employee, but like someone who knows the dignity of her presence. She stepped away from the table. Not once did she look back. But behind her, Noah watched. He didn't call out, didn't cry. He just tapped the tabletop, 2 slow beats, as if knocking on a door that had never been opened. After that morning, the mansion fell into silence. No more clinking of spoons and forks. No more sudden soft laughter from the 3rd floor. No more warm cinnamon scent drifting up the glass staircase. Maya had left, exactly as she'd promised. No resistance, not a single word of complaint. She packed her fabric tote, left a bundle of dried lavender on the kitchen counter, and quietly walked out of the Whitmore Care house as if she had never existed. But before leaving, she folded a small piece of paper and gently tucked it beneath Noah's pillow. Noah woke up in the middle of the night. He sensed something had changed in the room. Not the light, not the temperature, but the absence. An emptiness no line of code could explain. He felt as if an unnamed nerve had just been severed. He turned his head, nudging his chin against the navigation control panel. The bed tilted to the left, a corner of the pillow flipped up, and the small note slid out from beneath it. Noah saw handwriting. Not perfect like digital fonts, but rhythmic like drawing. You're not broken. You're growing. I didn't fix you. I just stood by while you learned how to walk. Maya. He read it again and again, didn't fully understand, but something shifted inside his chest. Noah left the bed. Without alerting the system, without notifying the digital assistant, he wheeled himself out of the room and, for the first time, climbed the stairs alone. The smart home system instantly issued a soft warning. Noah, slope exceeds safety threshold. Warning. Guardian has not confirmed. Stop. Risk of freefall at spiral step 6. But Noah didn't stop. He tilted his head, trying to lift the wheels with the auxiliary lever. Sweat dripped from his temple. Every stair felt like a mountain. He made it to the 4th step when the left wheel slipped. The glass spiral staircase was too slick. The left axle slipped off the edge. The chair lost balance, and Noah fell. A loud thud echoed through the mansion like glass shattering in still air. The central screen in Richard's lab flashed bright red. Fall detected. Floor 2. Mobile unit. No. Impact stabilization. Failed. Emergency mode activated. 911, and Dr. Simmons notified. He bolted from the room, buttons undone, shouting, "Noah!" On the staircase, Noah lay motionless, head bleeding, prosthetic arm joint broken. Beneath his head was Maya's note, now stained with blood. Just as Richard bent down to lift his son, someone came running in from the front door. It was Maya. She had come back. No one called. No one notified her. But somehow, somewhere inside her, an invisible thread was tied to that boy, and when it snapped, her heart instantly knew. Without waiting for permission, Maya rushed forward, knelt, cradled Noah's head, pressing his face into her shoulder like a mother holding her child after their first fall. "You're okay. You're okay. Don't close your eyes. I'm here." Blood from Noah's forehead soaked into Maya's turban. Richard stood frozen. He had never seen anyone, not even doctors, hold his son like that. Noah opened his eyes, blurry with tears. He looked at his father, then at Maya. His hand moved. He didn't scream, didn't cry. He tapped his broken prosthetic against Maya's arm, then typed with his mouth onto the handheld screen. "Mom." Richard was stunned. A man who had lost his wife, witnessing his son call a stranger by the holiest name. He opened his mouth to speak. But Maya turned to him, eyes blazing. "Do you want your system to save him? Or do you want someone alive to hold him to their heart?" The emergency room door at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital closed in the middle of the night, cold white light casting over every tense joint in Richard Whitmore's face. He sat on the bench, eyes fixed on the door embedded with vital sign sensors tracking his son. His company's internal server had been directly connected. Noah's heart rate, 86. Oxygen saturation, 97%. Intracranial condition, no hemorrhage. The numbers were solid, but he felt no peace. Through the glass wall, he saw Maya, the woman with no degree, no medical certification, sitting beside Noah's bed, holding his bruised, armless limb. She wasn't doing anything. New questions, new devices. Just holding his hand. And strangely, Noah's toes began to flex and stretch lightly. It wasn't significant from a medical standpoint, but the boy physically responded to human touch for the first time in 11 years, which was not administered for clinical purposes. Richard remained silent. In his mind, lines of code ran across like error commands. Every definition of optimized neurorecovery he had ever known failed to explain what had just happened. Earlier, in the ambulance, the doctor had asked Maya, "Are you the legal guardian?" Richard had meant to answer, but Maya spoke first. "Number, I'm beside him when he doesn't need monitoring, but needs trust." She hadn't asked permission, but Noah had leaned against her chest the entire ride. No crying, no panic. Something that had never happened during any of his medical evaluations. That night, Richard returned to the mansion. He turned on all the lights and activated the emotion recognition system, but the system failed to register anything on his face. No anger, no calm, no emotion. Just a man disoriented by something he had never accounted for. Losing control in the face of human feeling. He opened Noah's room camera footage. Rewound the past few days. Images of the boy drawing, smiling at his sketches, climbing the stairs. And then, Maya entered the kitchen, placed a cup of tea on the table, folded a napkin, wiping the surface with her bare hands, none of which were part of Whitmore Care's recommended care sequence. Every action Maya took was inefficient from a technical perspective, but those inefficiencies activated Noah's emotional brain region, something that the millions Richard had poured into neurological research had never managed to do. The next morning, the doctor called Richard to the hospital. "We'd like to transfer Noah to a specialized neurorehabilitation center for observation." "That won't be necessary. I have my system," Richard replied mechanically. "No, Mr. Whitmore. This isn't just about physical recovery. Noah is healing psychologically, and that involves people, not machines." Richard didn't respond. At that moment, a small voice came from inside the hospital room. "Dell." He turned. Noah was sitting upright against a pillow, pale but alert. Maya sat beside him, not holding his hand, simply gazing out the window, giving the boy space to be alone with his father. Richard approached. "What do you need?" Noah shook his head. Then, I activated the touchscreen. A line of text appeared. I don't want to return to a house without people. He froze. That house was built to protect you. Noah continued typing. I don't need protection. I need to live. Richard didn't speak, but his hands trembled. The screen blurred as the morning sunlight poured in. The final line appeared slowly, tearing through the layers of glass he had built over the past 11 years. And if you can't live with me like a human, let Maya do it. Maya didn't interrupt, didn't say a word. She stood up and walked out into the hallway, leaving that man alone to face the coldest truth of all. He had succeeded in protecting his son's body, but failed at becoming his father. Richard returned to the mansion after 2 consecutive days at the hospital, but not because he was forced to. Rather, because Noah wouldn't speak to him. The boy still typed on the screen, but had turned it off every time Richard entered. Every time Richard tried to touch his shoulder, the boy turned away. For the first time in his life, Richard Whitmore, a man who could get an entire network of neurology hospitals to sign a contract with a single email, couldn't get his son to look him in the eye. He walked into the kitchen, the place where Maya used to stand. The sink was empty. No more warm tea. No more bamboo cloths hanging from the chair. On the wall was one of Noah's drawings, done in black ink. A house made entirely of glass. No doors. No handles. Only a tree growing through it, but the tree was wilted. Beside it was a new drawing, this one in colored pencil, of a black woman holding a broom in a yard, next to a smiling, armless child. Richard picked up a teacup. It felt heavy as stone. His lips were dry. The liquid inside had gone cold. He recalled something. The last time he had hugged Noah was the day his wife died, and the boy was only 3 years old. After that, he buried himself in technology, as if every line of code was a wall shielding him from grief. But walls don't save anyone. They only make those inside forget how to step out and reach others. The next morning, he returned to the hospital. But this time, he didn't leave Noah's room immediately. He headed straight to the staff cafeteria, where Maya washed her hands under the faucet. Maya looked at him but didn't greet him. She dried her hands on her sleeve. He stood there, dressed in a Hugo Boss suit, amid the scent of antiseptic and glaring white light. After a long pause, he finally said, I don't know how to say sorry. I don't need you to apologize. Maya replied, eyes still on the towel. But my son needs you. Noah needs someone willing to let him see who they are, not through an HR design document. He said nothing. Maya turned to leave, but then, as if remembering something, she stopped. You once asked me why I wasn't a doctor. I once wanted to study speech therapy. But I didn't have enough scholarship, and the welfare system didn't count my work at the disabled children's shelter in Senegal as valid experience. Richard looked up. I can help you go back to school. I have a foundation. Maya shook her head. You don't need to repay me. You need to stay longer than 10 minutes when your son says something that isn't in your agenda. He stayed silent. Maya looked him in the eye for the first time. You once built a house with no walls. But have you ever truly opened the door of your heart to that child? That afternoon, when Noah was discharged from the hospital, Richard didn't call the driver. Didn't use the self-driving car. He drove an old sedan, the one his wife used to drive, to pick up his son. Noah saw it, blinked. He didn't say anything, but his gaze softened. On the way home, they didn't play music. Richard didn't talk about devices, didn't ask about recovery stats. He asked, would you like to teach me how to use the eye-controlled pen? Noah gave a slight nod. Then, can I have dinner with you tonight? Noah didn't nod. But he didn't shake his head either. A small moment. But Richard knew. It was an invitation he didn't deserve, yet his son still saved for him. That night, in the kitchen, Richard learned how to peel a banana for his son with trembling hands, learned how to pour water without spilling, without a robotic assistant. And when Noah wrote on the screen with his eyes, do you want me to draw you, Dad? Richard laughed. Not loudly, not showy. But for the first time in 11 years, he laughed not to maintain an image, but because his heart had softened. The glass mansion on the hill had changed 3 weeks after Noah was discharged from the hospital. The dining table was no longer left empty. The doors no longer shut automatically every 7 minutes. The scent of lavender essential oil had been replaced with real flowers, which Noah had ordered himself from the local market with suggestions from Maya. And each morning voices returned to the house. Voices of conversation, stories being read aloud, and Noah learning to laugh without mechanical facial stimulation. Maya no longer slept in the downstairs helper's room. She stayed in the room next to Noah's, partly to monitor him at night, but also because Noah only slept peacefully knowing she was close. Yet one morning, Maya received an email from Richard Whitmore. Subject line, "New contract proposal." She opened it. Inside were a doubled salary, a 2-year employment contract, job title, Senior Special Care Assistant, clause, no involvement in Noah's educational, medical, or therapeutic decisions, and a minor footnote, not involved in family or legal decision-making. She read it again and again. Each sentence felt like a shackle, wrapped in polite language. That evening, she didn't join the father and son for dinner as usual. She went up to the rooftop, under the glow of San Francisco's lights, eyes unblinking. Richard came up later, holding a printed copy in his hand. "Is there something you don't understand?" he asked. Maya didn't turn around. "I understand too well." Then I won't sign it." Richard was briefly taken aback. "I thought you wanted stability. A long-term job. Good benefits. Number." Maya turned around, her eyes sharp as a fine blade. "I want to be seen as a person, not a function." Richard said nothing. "What are you afraid of?" Maya asked. "Afraid that if I stay without a contract, you'll have to admit I'm not just someone you hired, but the person your son calls mother." Richard gripped the contract tightly. "You're not his mother. I'm not." "If you define mother as someone whose name is on the birth certificate," Maya replied. "But I'm the one who held his hand when he fell, taught him how to smile, sat beside him in pain, and the only one he isn't afraid to touch." At that moment, Noah appeared on the stairs. He had heard everything. He said nothing, but quietly rolled himself back to his room. Maya wanted to follow him, but she stopped. "You know what, Richard?" she continued. "There's something you never understood. Children like Noah, with disabilities, they don't need to be protected from the world. They need someone to sit beside them and say, 'You have the right to see yourself as part of this world, not an exception to it.'" The next day, Maya packed her things. She wasn't angry, didn't demand anything, didn't threaten. She left a short handwritten letter on the dining table. "You need someone who stays not because of a contract, but because of love. But if his father isn't ready to name that love, I can't teach Noah to accept a version of it with conditions. I love you, Noah, and I'll come back if you need me. Not as a helper, but as your mother, if you still want to call me that." She left at noon. This time, Noah didn't stop her. Not because he was angry, but because he had learned the most important thing from her. True love never traps people inside walls. It lets them leave. See if someone dares to open the door and invite them back in. After Maya left, the mansion returned to being exactly that. A mansion. It was so quiet that you could hear the hum of the underground air filtration system. It was so perfect that everything was always in place, and nothing was ever surprising again. Noah said nothing. He still studied every morning, still played meditation music on schedule, still trained his toe sensors to control the wheelchair, still stared out the window, where Maya used to stand, shaking out the wet cleaning cloth with her bare hands. Richard thought, maybe he's used to it. He's a resilient boy after all. But he didn't know that Noah was planning a counterattack outside that silent room. That evening, while Richard was in a video meeting with Japanese investors, the mansion's innovative system suddenly lost internal connection. All the lights turned red. The speakers blared a repeating message. Access override. Unauthorized network detected. Rerouting through external signal. Richard panicked. Shot to his feet. Where's the AI system? Who's breaching Whitmore care? At that moment, the central screen lit up. A video began playing automatically. No title, no sender. And on the screen appeared Maya. She was reading a children's story in French, golden afternoon light spilling across her shoulders. It was a video Noah had secretly recorded from a lesson where she taught him the difference between être and avoir. No one knew. No data logs. No server backups. Only Noah remembered. Richard stared at the screen. And then, the alarm stopped. The house shifted to a soft amber glow. All digital schedules were deactivated. The central console displayed a single line of text, signed with a shaky, robotic foot signature. I don't need protection. I need Maya. Immediately after, Richard stormed into Noah's room. What are you doing? He shouted, torn between fear and fury. Noah didn't turn around. He brought up a side screen and typed, Stop calling her the helper. I've deleted that role from the system. If you don't invite her back, I won't talk to you anymore. Richard froze. You're threatening me? Noah nodded. Clearly. Then continued. Number, I'm choosing the one I trust to stay, even when there's no contract to keep her here. Richard's hands trembled. For the first time he realized, every system he'd built could control behavior, but had never, and would never, control love. He stepped back, as if pushed by a wave he couldn't see. Every algorithm in his mind failed to produce a solution, because this wasn't a problem to fix. This was a father being forced to listen to his child with his heart, not with code. At 3 a.m. the next morning, Richard showed up in front of a small Oakland house where Maya rented a room. He knocked. No warning. The door opened. Maya stood there, holding a mug of ginger tea, not surprised. Richard held out his phone. On the screen was a message. Mom, will you come home? I've deleted all the roles in the system. I need you to be Mom. Noah. Maya looked at Richard. This time I'm not coming back because of a promise. I'm coming back because my child called me, and you can't stop that anymore. The next morning, when Maya stepped into the mansion, Noah cried. Not with sound, not with screams, but by raising his armless limb, and for the first time, leaning into someone's embrace alone. No system recorded that moment. No cameras. Only two people. A child who had lived without arms. A woman who had lived without a title. And for the first time, they had something no system could ever confirm. They belonged to each other. Rumors spread quickly after Whitmore Care's internal network was reportedly hijacked, and the alleged culprit, according to whispers, was a disabled child, aided by a black housemaid. The media pounced instantly. Was the one-year-old Whitmore boy psychologically affected by excessive proximity to a caregiver? Whitmore Care under investigation for allowing uncertified labor to influence a child on the special monitoring list directly. Who is Maya Dione? Why did she live in the Whitmore home without a legal employment contract? Each headline in question aimed not at the truth but Maya's identity. Richard watched the news in silence in the living room of the mansion. Maya watched too. Noah sat between them. No one spoke. The screen showed clips of Maya, which were edited to make her look like a potential threat to the boy. They dug into her work history at children's shelters in Senegal. They scrutinized how she dropped out of school after her mother's death. But what choked Maya was a clip from a live interview. If she's critical to the child, why has the Whitmore family never officially recognized her as a guardian? The next day, a Department of Health and Human Services representative came to inspect the Whitmore residence. We received a complaint that an unlicensed individual is directly involved with a child under special medical supervision. Maya stood tall, did not bow. I'm willing to leave. But before that, please ask Noah what he wants. The child has no legal right to choose his caregiver. At that moment, Noah activated his eye-controlled system, typing each word, If I don't have the right to choose who my mother is, then this system isn't built to care for me. It's built to imprison me. The official paused, but still noted it down. We'll escalate this to the board. Maya was summoned to a hearing at the California State Health Tribunal 3 days later. She went alone. No lawyer. No legal representative. The room was filled with white people in suits. They asked her, Do you have any certifications to work with disabled children? Do you have a degree from an American institution? Do you have a legal or blood relation to the child? She shook her head to all. One woman on the board with silver hair and golden glasses asked the final question. Then what gives you the right to be in the Whitmore home and call yourself a mother? Maya took a deep breath, then stood. Her gaze was steady. I didn't take the right. It was given through trust, love, and the nights I held a child who hadn't slept in 11 years because he never knew what a mother's arms felt like. I didn't attend university, but I know what it means to sit beside a child who cannot speak and still understand exactly what he's saying. And if every credential, every regulation in this world has no space for a black woman who simply knows how to love, then it's not me who needs rewriting. It's the system. The room went silent. The next day, the New York Times published an op-ed titled, "The Mother Without a Name and the Invisible Line Where Law Doesn't Recognize Love." The article went viral. Maya received over 6,000 emails within 48 hours. From single mothers, from caregivers of Alzheimer's patients, from women of color who were once kicked out of ERs just for wearing a janitor uniform while rushing their children in. They didn't say much. They wrote, "You are us." That weekend, in the Whitmore backyard, Noah personally used his foot-controlled device to write on a whiteboard, "I want to hold a press conference, not to defend Maya, but to declare, I have the right to choose who loves me, and that doesn't need to be legalized." Richard looked at his son, then at Maya. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" Maya nodded. "We've already gone all the way to the edge of silence. Now it's time to speak." The Whitmore backyard was transformed into the site of the press conference. Not like a tech company event. No logos, no branded backdrops, no rows of plastic chairs. Just a green lawn, a long oak table, 2 microphones, and Noah sitting in the center, wearing a white shirt ironed by Maya herself. The media flooded in. Cameras, interview mics, drones, live streams. The first questions launched like bullets. Did the boy write those anti-system statements, or was he coached? What makes this woman, Maya, qualified to replace the national health care and education systems? Mr. Richard Whitmore, do you admit to violating guardianship regulations? Maya stood behind Noah. No blazer, no makeup. She didn't prepare a speech, but when she stepped up to the microphone, she spoke as if speaking to the story of her whole life. "I am a woman who has never been called a mother by the law. I've been turned away from academic doors because I couldn't afford tuition. I've mopped floors in children's shelters with no name on the recognition board. But today, I am not asking permission to stand here. I stand here because a child without arms used the last muscles he had to write my name into his life." She stepped back. Just then, Noah activated the screen and played an unreleased video. It showed him in a hospital bed, Maya asleep beside him, her hand resting on his chest to monitor his breathing. No shaky camera. No lighting. Just love. Existing in silence. Noah typed slowly, one word at a time. "I don't need a system to define who my mother is. I need to hold on to the one who stayed." When the whole world walked away, the whole lawn fell silent. Cameras stopped recording. No one asked another question. That evening, Richard called Maya out to the balcony. He wore a plain sweater, held no files, no spreadsheets. "I once built a house with no walls to connect everything, but I forgot that nothing connects if no one lives inside. I lost my wife to silence. Almost lost my son to control. I don't want to lose you." Maya looked at him. No tears. She said, "If you want me to stay, don't call me staff. Please don't call me a guest. Let Noah choose what to call me. And don't ever correct that word again." A month later, the media no longer covered the Whitmore child care scandal. Instead, a small newspaper ran an op-ed. "A child with no arms just taught us something that law, tech, and education never did. Love doesn't need to be legalized. It only needs to be trusted and kept." A small sign was fixed to the mansion's gate, commissioned by Noah himself, letters etched in slanted steel. "The House of Maya, where love doesn't ask for permission."